My name is Archana Miretskar, and I am the Senior Media and Communications Officer for the Embassy of Canada based in New Delhi. On behalf of the Embassy of Canada, I am very happy to welcome you all today here at this event. And I am delighted to introduce the chief guest, the special guest for this event today, the award-winning Canadian journalist, Ms. Nanaba Duncan. In conversation with Ms. Duncan today, is another distinguished media person who needs no introduction to this gathering. Allow me to present Mr. Laxman Datt Pant, who is the chairman of Media Action Nepal.
First of all, thank you to Media Action Nepal for helping us facilitate this dialogue. These dialogues we really believe are important in exchanging best practices in journalism, but also in helping to enrich and build connections in the journalism communities between our countries. Nepali journalists showed that women comprise only 18% of members of the profession, and only 8.1% of women journalists hold senior positions. So those are not very impressive numbers. And worldwide, according to a report by the Reuters Institute, only 22% of the 180 top editors across 240 brands in the 12 largest markets worldwide are women, even though 40% of journalists in these markets are women. So, this just shows that equal representation of all groups is important at a practical level, but also at a symbolic level, and we're not there yet.
I would like to start with a big round of applause to our guest today, Nanaba Duncan. So to begin this conversation, I would like to start from a very general observation of yours. You started your career as a journalist, advocated rights of marginalized communities across the world. And now you shifted your career into academia, leading a course in inclusion and diversity journalism course. Could you tell us your journey from a journalist to an academia?
I worked as a journalist for about 15 years. And most of that was with one media outlet, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And my move into academia was by accident, in that I wasn't expecting it. I had an opportunity to take a year off from CBC and work and go to University of Toronto. And it was a journalism fellowship. And the idea during that fellowship is that you can audit and take a look at a number of courses. And I was looking at courses of leadership. And while I took that course, there was an assignment. And that assignment asked you to look at your future as a leader. And I was led to create my own mission statement. And the mission statement said something like, I want to foster an environment in which racialized journalists feel like their perspectives and their communities are as legitimate as white people's. That was my mission. And then somebody tapped me. Somebody said, there's a job over there. Are you interested? And I said, I'm not a professor, no. And then I was talking to a mentor about it, and she said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I have a mission statement. I know what I want to do. And I realized that I could superimpose my mission statement onto the posting. So I took the job.
What was easy, whether exposing truth through journalistic craft or, letting your students know about exposing truths again?
To answer your question about the truth, I would say that truth can come in many forms. And the truth can come in the form of you accurately reporting on a story, but truth can also be the nuance that you can apply to a story because of what you know about that community and because of your experience.
What are the key challenges, for racialized people or for women or for marginalized communities reaching out to not only to the leadership positions, but also playing an effective role, so that they actually play the role of voice for the voiceless in the newsrooms?
The biggest challenge has to do with feeling like you belong. And it's very easy for a person to not feel like they belong when the people around them are giving them clues. So I'll give you some examples for myself. In many of the newsrooms that I was in, I was either the only person or one of few. One day when I was in maybe my 3rd or 4th year at CBC, I was in the kitchenette, and I was washing my lunch dishes with a friend. And we were talking about the opportunities that I was getting. At the time, I was getting more opportunities to host shows. Some of the opportunities, many of them were they were national. This was in the music department. So I was getting more opportunities to host shows. And while we were talking, he said to me, "You know they're only giving it to you because you're black and a female, right?" And I remember that moment because it made me feel bad. It made me feel like I didn't have talent. It made me feel like the only reason why I'm there is because somebody wants to check boxes that you are here, therefore we're fine. But I didn't have the confidence in that moment to remind myself that I wouldn't be given the opportunity to host these shows if I was bad at my job. So obviously I had the skills, and I didn't know what to say to that person. So that's one example. Another example, somebody coming to touch my hair without my permission. Another example, somebody thinking that I would cover a certain topic only because I'm black. If that topic is a black topic, that I have to cover that one. And another one is when I told a producer about an experience that one of my guests had in the course of the pre-interview. This guest told me of something racist that she had experienced, and this was a black guest. And my producer didn't believe my guest. So you understand that kind of racism, if I am feeling like I can't even tell you the story of some other black person, the message I get is that your experiences don't matter. So over time, that makes you feel like you don't belong. So those are just my examples. I have another example where a woman saw me wearing a very bright, colorful dress. And she said, "I like your dress. Where did you get it? Did you get it from Jamaica, Mon?" And so she was putting on an accent from another country that I don't belong to. So these things, they may seem small to some people, but you get it over time, and the message is, you're so different. Like, you don't belong here. And if we're able to make the environment better, such that everything about you that is different, we welcome, then you feel more confident. You feel more confident to pitch stories. You feel more confident to speak up and give nuance and offer another aspect of a story. And that's what we want. To me, that's what we want.
Well, Nana, very similar instances taking place here in Nepal as well. I was doing a research for IGI Global 2 years ago. I interacted with over 80 women journalists across Nepal. Similar examples shared with me in confidence, actually. And as a researcher, I exposed some of these statistics to that global research paper that has actually got published 2 years back. A lot of feedback I received from the global research institutes and media researchers as well. Similar instances, women or people from marginalized communities not finding a space to say that, this is what I want to let the rest of the public know. Mm-hmm. So what do you think, despite considerable number of, sensitization from the civil society, from the academia, from some research insights, why these incidents often take place in the newsrooms, that the suppressed or marginalized communities don't find a space for leadership and for a content that they want to produce? It is merely the lapse of sensitization in the newsrooms, or do you think this is a policy issue? This is an issue connected to the wider culture of impunity?
Well, I would say that it's different in every country, obviously, and that can even be broken down in different areas and states. But I would say that for Canada, policies have to be created, but they don't only have to be created, they have to be enforced. Ultimately, the answer is that whatever needs to be done, it has to be intentional. You cannot just talk. You can't just write a statement. You can't just have a statement on your website, right? It has to come from the top, and then it goes to the people who lead the newsrooms, the people who lead the conversations. And at the same time, you and I both know students. We also have to be teaching our students that they have to accept everyone around them. We have to be teaching them that everything that you have been taught, that shows you that someone is worse than you because of how they were born, where they were born, what they look like, it's wrong. We have to change that.
Maybe, would you like to share some ideas on how Black Lives Matters protest and the Me Too movement across the globe?
Mm-hmm.
What is your observation about that?
What these movements do, I think that they can, in the moment, encourage people to speak out about what has happened to them. But as human beings, a topic is at the top and then it falls, even if a topic is very important, right? You know how the news is. A topic can be up here, it can be so important to all of us, and eventually it falls. And there are people like you and me who are always talking about these things, and we try to make them stay up at the top.
Would you like to share with us your thoughts on approaches eliminating insensitive mistakes that often happen knowingly or unknowingly in the newsrooms from the leaderships, promoting or fostering an environment where people from all colors or race, ethnicity, find a space that this is my newsroom and I'm able to expose the truth.
If you come across a person and you have now said something that is racist, or you have done something that is racist or sexist, and you find out, like that person tells you, then what you do is you say, I apologize, I'm sorry about that, and you never make the mistake again. What you don't do, what happens in Canada a lot, is like if you were together and you've made a racist statement, and I say, excuse me, but that's racist, don't say that again. What happens is the other person will go, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, and then they will take a long time. They will center their emotions. And then now I am here going, oh, it's okay. It becomes very awkward. Rather, what I try to teach people is that you recognize that you made a mistake, and you move on. You say sorry, and you move on. You don't try to make that other person feel even more uncomfortable. You have to recognize here that your thought pattern has been interrupted. Allow your thought patterns about marginalized people to be interrupted with corrections. And then you change that with the correction.
I was pregnant in the year 2013. I worked in an English news daily in the English newsroom for the last 6 years in the same newsroom. And I told my editors, first my bureau chief, he was man, my editor who was man, and the management who was man. I told them I couldn't work because my pregnancy was so tough, I had to get admitted every other month. So I told them I couldn't work, let me do the translation job. That's simple, I can do from home. And I used to work in the English newsroom, so there were lots of translation jobs that were coming from outside the valley. Nobody listened to me. My question is, how do we create this feeling of belongingness when we are forced to work with the people around who are men? It was a gendered bureau. We used to call so-called gender bureau. We are 4 women, 4 men, equal. We are from diverse communities, but nobody listened to me. I had to leave the media job.
What we're talking about really is a culture change, right? It is a culture change. And culture changes take time. They take time. I hope that people around you will continue to speak up for other women. And then the editors in the room, the men who are editors in the room, and the men who are leaders in this room, I hope you hear that story. I really hope you've heard her. And that you will understand that when somebody comes to you with something that has to do with them being a woman, that you do not dismiss them. Everyone has to be heard.
If we talk about constitutional rights for them, no, is 33%. So who is giving them this kind of right? Where men are completely allowed to obtain 77% places. And in democracy, we talk about majority forms the government.
I don't know how to answer the question. I don't. But rights must be given to people from everybody. But in our worlds, rights are given when people fight for them.
So you have your priorities, as you mentioned earlier, that Canada has different situation in terms of inclusiveness and representation, and we have a different situation, right? Since having so many languages and dialects, so many ethnic groups, we being national radio, and again converting into public service media, that has become a challenge, I suppose, if we want to really project the organization as inclusive, okay? So this is an opportunity. I just want your suggestions. So how you handle your issues, as well as depending on our background, as I mentioned. So what would you suggest? How we can reorganize and make it more inclusive?
What I'm talking about is intersectionality. You're going to choose women who also come from these communities, and you put them at the top. Because I'll tell you, they will be looking at everybody. And while they do during the course of their jobs, they will also be inclusive. That's not always the case, but I will say that you must also talk about that mandate of inclusivity to everybody, to everyone, and talk about how important it is, and then hire accordingly. And those people that you have hired, you're also telling them about the mandate.
I have two questions. First question is, I just wanted to know, what motivated you to become a journalist? What is your dream before you started journalism? One. Second one is, we have seen a lot of stories, even in the case of India or Nepal. There was a case happened in India. One of the very prominent journalists, she was working for NDTV. She was hiding her caste when she was working for the television station, because if they knew she belongs to the Dalit community and other people, they didn't support her. I have done a research, around 2% journalists, they are working in Nepali news media, but they also have not get that sort of opportunities to become a leader of any sections. Either the media houses or the state, they have taken a responsibility to make them a leader. In this situation, what could be the policy measure? For example, the state also can have some sort of policies.
The idea of implementing policies that have to do with quotas, I find that it is not just about saying, oh, we should, and just talking about it. We should have this number. We should have this percentage of people from this caste or this race or that kind of thing. It is more about saying, these are the rules. When you are creating, the management team, we must have someone from this place. We must have someone from this place. That's something you can do. And I think that sounds like a great policy.
Is that so? The females' problem must be raised by the females. Why men are hesitant to raise the questions of females?
Who are talking about the women? It's a good question. I mean, for many movements, it's always the people who are marginalized who end up speaking up first. But it is so satisfying when someone who is not a man speaks up for women. It is so satisfying. The role of men now is to be comrades, is to be allies. The role of men is to understand that women are not getting the place that they need, and to speak up for them, not without their permission, right? This is like if something has happened between us and I tell you that I don't think that our editor is listening to me, then you say, do you want me to talk to him about it? Or when we're talking about it in the newsroom, do you want me to support you? There's this idea called amplifying. I don't know, I think they were doing this in the US, in the White House, where during the meetings, a woman would say something, and another woman would afterward say, you know, I think Nanaba's idea was actually very good. They called it amplifying. So you should do that in your newsrooms.
Being a female and also a student of journalism, I actually don't see any scope of journalism in my country because I feel that male are dominant in my country and they make the rules. So no matter what I say, it just goes back to the same pattern of me being victimized over males' rules. So what are your thoughts about it?
I don't know if I'm able to clear the confusion, but what I can say is that it's very good for us to hear that you don't really see a solution. It sounds like you're coming from a place of, I don't know how this will change. I can't see the way forward. And that is very unfortunate, that you're not able to see how you would feel equal to your counterparts in a newsroom. And I think what that means is that the editors and the leaders in the room have to recognize that this is how a person is feeling when they come into your newsroom. That they already feel like there's no place for, or there's no way for them to not necessarily succeed, but to hold the same place as their male counterparts. This is a problem. So the question is, what will you do?
We are intercaste couple, and then they were after me. One thing for that. Another thing, I'm so active. I say I'm so active, and then I joined BFBS radio. It's been 2 years, and then when I started to work, and then I felt like this is the time to work. I need to learn so many things, and working in newsroom is like giving exam every day because you have to be up to date every time. So I worked a lot, and then my boss also said, you are working too much, so don't stress. Do it so slowly, don't stress, you are working too much. And then a few person inside the newsroom, they just used to come office, sleep, and just go, like they were just having the salary. And they did not like me working, and they started talking about me and regarding my marriage and everything, and then they started character assassination and everything. And when I heard that, I complained it to my news editor, and then he took the matter to station manager, and we are UK-based radio station, so it went to UK. And then I proudly say that they are no more in my newsroom. I don't have to see them, and my office heard me. So, and I have seen so many girls here, and I'd like to request them, like, don't be limited within 33%. It's like, I have heard so many times that I am a girl, it's already 6 p.m., I need to go home early. How will I go home? Like, don't limit yourself within these things. She said journalism is not attractive job. Let's make it attractive. Let's work together. Let's bring a willpower within yourself. Let's not limit within 33%. We are 100% capable. Let's do it together. More than 100%, right? Let's do it together. That's it.
Thank you. I think what a wonderful way to end. What a wonderful way to end. The one thing that I would add to that is that everybody must communicate with each other. Be with each other on WhatsApp or whatever. Make the community that you need. That is definitely one thing that helped me. I haven't even spoken about this. One of the things that really, really helped me in my career when I was feeling alone was that there were people that I could go to in my phone, in my WhatsApp, in my chat group, in my Twitter chat group, that I could say, I could cry to them that something happened to me and they would help me. Thank you very much.
I think the whole point of organizing these kinds of events is providing a platform for us all to share our stories, listen to inspirational roles that other people have played, learn from them. This all helps to change our perspective, get some new ideas, and as many of you have pointed out, we are all capable of doing much more, and I wish you all the best.